So former President Donald Trump sat for a deposition yesterday in New York, and for hours he took his Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions out of fear of incriminating himself. He did that more than 400 times. Trump did answer one question, giving his name. So this is all part of an investigation into his businesses, his property valuations, loans. Trump's lawyers reportedly convinced him that taking the Fifth was in his best interest. But as I'm sure many of you have seen online, there are a lot of different posts pointing out Trump's previous statements about people who plead the Fifth. Take a look.
So there are 5 people taking the Fifth Amendment, like you see on the mob, right? You see the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
Well, there you go. So for more on this, we are joined, I've not seen her in a long time. Look at you, criminal defense attorney Sara Azari. So great to see you.
Hello, hello.
Now, not only listen, Sara, like not only are you one of the best attorneys around, but you wrote a book called Unprecedented, all about former President Trump and his alleged crime. So, Sara, you are the perfect person for us to hear from. Tori, I know you have a laundry list of questions
I'm like
for her.
eagerly wanting to
And
ask
you have to read her book.
I can't. Well, first of all, it's going on the Amazon list right now, and I secondly want to know, as an attorney, what do you think about Trump taking the Fifth? Was this the right move? And also, as someone who knows, just as a human being in this United States and knows the history of him saying, why would you take the Fifth? How do you feel about it in that way personally?
Yes, Tori, good to be with all of you. This was not only the right thing to do, in my mind, it was the only thing to do. When you have any amount of criminal exposure, although this case itself is a civil investigation by the state of New York, by the AG's office, but Trump has a bunch of legal woes. He's got everything from the January 6th committee to Georgia to the Manhattan DA's office and everything in between. So when you have any amount of criminal exposure, you do take the Fifth. It's not about being innocent or guilty. It is a constitutional right. In fact, the Supreme Court has ruled on this many times, saying that it's not about guilt or innocence. Right. It's protection that everybody on U.S. soil has. So he did the right thing. But he still has problems because by his own definition, he's a mob guy. And he's guilty. Right. So he defined it for himself. And also, Tori, because this is a civil case, if the state of New York sues him and he's found liable, this can be used against him.
Right.
And the judgment would be heftier.
Wow.
Well, I mean, that kind of leads me to my next question, because obviously we talk a lot about Trump, but we also got to talk to our viewers and just regular folks like myself. If anybody is in trouble with the police, is it just good practice to not have anything to say unless there is a lawyer there present? Because I know a lot of times when people are innocent, your first thing is like, oh, thank goodness, let me explain myself, and you could possibly say something that could be used against you. So would you as an attorney recommend that no one says anything until there's a lawyer there?
Just shut up. Just don't say a word. Okay, don't say a word.
By the way, we're going to clip that with you just saying shut up.
And there's a lot you can say that could hurt you, even though in your layperson mind you think that it might be helpful. I mean, a recent example was Alec Baldwin, although that was not criminal, potentially criminal, but mostly civil. He had a need to discuss what happened on the set of Rust, but it hasn't been working out that well because there's inconsistencies now between his interview and the evidence.
And watch out, Sara, because Al's going to clip just the part of you saying shut up, and he's going to make it look like that you told him.
I was yelled at today on the panel.
I will never.
I thought
You're rude, but not that rude.
I thought it was a great response. All right. So let's get to this, Sara. A lot of people are comparing the way Trump is being treated, right? The people on the right, that's the rhetoric that they're saying. So to other investigations that we don't really talk about quite as much, especially on this show. So let's start with the Hillary Clinton thing and her emails, or Hunter Biden and his business dealings, or even Nancy Pelosi's husband. He had a DUI arrest, but I'm more interested in his stock trades. Let's start with Hillary and maybe debunk or give validity to some of these things. Was the investigation into her treated differently than Donald Trump's?
Not at all, Jeff. I think we are living at a time where there's a lot of gotchaism and whataboutism, and that's the first thing we go to. But if you really look at this from my perspective as a lawyer, when there is probable cause that a crime has been committed by a specific person, whether it's Hillary, Trump, Biden, whoever, you do an investigation, and you do it thoroughly, and you do it properly, and you do it honestly. And at the end of that investigation, you conclude whether the person needs to be prosecuted or not. So starting with Hillary, she was investigated. It was determined, it was a different DOJ at the time. It was James Comey, et cetera. But she was investigated. No crime was found to have been committed. Case closed. Hunter Biden, the DOJ under his father, has taken this case very seriously. It is not over. The investigation is ongoing. And then Pelosi. What the hell does your husband's DUI, or I don't care what he's done, I don't care if he's murdered somebody, what does his wrongdoing or alleged wrongdoing have to do with her? We don't have criminal culpability in this country by virtue of marriage. We are each treated individually by virtue of what we've done under the law, whether the facts fit the law. And so when you keep bringing up Pelosi's husband or her, who cares? Who cares? That's her husband. He's not running to be president. He's not in the House. He's nobody.
All right, so let's go back to Hunter Biden. How come we don't hear more about this if it's currently under investigation? We don't really know a lot about Trump's investigation other than the FBI raided his house. We don't know why they were there, or at least I don't. How come we don't know a couple more details into the Hunter Biden situation?
I think, for the same reason as the Trump investigation, when you have an open investigation, it would be unfair to the target or the subject being investigated for the DOJ to make any statements. And also it hurts the integrity of the investigation. So you leave it to the end. Now, in Trump's case, the DOJ absolutely has to explain why they took this very intrusive step 92 days from midterm elections. It's not within the 90-day period that the DOJ typically has a policy against, but it's still 2 days shy of that period. And they need to explain that. Now, according to a New York Times reporting just in the last hour, my understanding is that there was some lack of cooperation by Trump's team, that sometime in last spring, that these boxes that were remaining at Mar-a-Lago, about 12 of them, were actually subpoenaed. And apparently, Trump's team didn't cooperate and turn them over. And so they had to take the step of executing a search warrant. But think about it, Jeff. They didn't knock down the door. They didn't do what they did when they went out for Roger Stone. Right. They didn't, they were not even in uniform. So in all fairness, I think we have to look at this and call a spade a spade.
All right.
They did their job, and they did it pretty deferentially.
I want to sneak in one more here, Sarah. Going back now to Nancy Pelosi, I don't care about her husband's DUI, right? But those stock options, right? And it's not Nancy Pelosi, it's everybody in government. They shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks. And Nancy Pelosi's net wealth is over $200 million, and she doesn't make that much money. So I don't think anyone in government should be able to trade stocks because they know things that we don't, and that's insider trading. How come we're not talking about that a little bit more?
So fair point. That's a little bit better than the DUI, right? But not because it's a bigger crime or a bigger violation of the law, but because, technically Nancy Pelosi, as the wife of the wrongdoer, is somehow benefiting financially from this alleged wrongdoing or offense. But again, in this country, under our laws, we look at the wrongdoer. We don't look at the relative of the wrongdoer and then hold things against that person. So again, it's the same analysis, is that Nancy Pelosi might be the beneficiary of something if it's proven that he's actually traded wrongfully. She might be the beneficiary of wrongdoing, but she certainly didn't do it herself. And so again, we can't use it against her. It's just apples and oranges.
And we're out of time, Sarah, but quickly, I just want to hear from you. Do you believe that Trump will be prosecuted?
How much time do we have?
We don't. Yes or no?
Yeah, I really can't say. I think there's so many investigations for so many different things by different jurisdictions and agencies, and but it is very difficult to prosecute even a former president. We obviously not a sitting president, but it's really hard to determine. And I would say I hope so, but I don't think so.
Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us, for providing all your expertise. DBL Nation, you gotta grab a copy of Sarah's book. It's fantastic.
Cover. Look at
that. Unprecedented, a simple guide to the crimes of the Trump campaign and presidency, wherever books are sold. We appreciate you, Sarah. So great to see your face. We'll be right back.
Love you, Sam. Thank you. Great to see all of you.